Today's edition of the podcast is brought to you by Coach Me Plus. Coach Me Plus is the leader in athlete management software and a product that I've been lucky enough to be using for a little over a year now. Only rivaled by the impeccable customer service that Kevin and his staff provides, Coach Me Plus's ability to constantly be amoeba-like in their ability to mold and matriculate what you're trying to get across and bring together is absolutely fantastic. Their constant pursuit of better ways and better methods and innovations and progress to their own product is absolutely fantastic. Go over to CoachMePlus.com. Check out what they got, guys. It's something that I guarantee you won't be disappointed with. Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today, guys, I'm really excited to have John Wolf and CJ McFarland from ONNIT today to discuss us the whole idea of human optimization and optimizing athletes. We start out talking about, where ONNIT actually fits in this whole sport performance world and the things that they're looking at to serve us as coaches and to serve your athletes. We then get into what human optimization actually is, where it came from, and what it means to each of them prospectively and how they program because of it. We get to the basis of their education, where they start, from the ground up and working into how they implement educational classes for different pieces of equipment that they offer. And then we finish off talking about the future of ONNIT and where both of them see it going. It's really an awesome talk, guys, when you're talking with coaches and people that are involved in different forms of education for coaches. I really find it enlightening and I really enjoy it. So I hope you guys enjoyed the talk as much as I did. Let's get right to it. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being on with us today.
Hey, thanks for having us, Coach.
Yeah, so let's start this out. So some people will be watching, some people will be listening, hopefully listening, not watching when they're driving their cars here. Let's get a little intro so everybody can tell the voices and know who's talking when each is talking.
Yeah, definitely. My name is John Wolf. I'm the Chief Fitness Officer at ONNIT Labs. That gets me doing a lot of fun stuff. Sounds official if I say CFO, but it really is a unique title of Fitness Officer. So overseeing everything fitness related for this burgeoning supplement company that kind of delved into fitness equipment and realized that they needed to develop some education around all these unconventional tools they're making available to the marketplace. So coming in to initially just develop education, we opened a gym. CJ here is one of our amazing coaches at the facility, specializes in strength training and of a more conventional flavor than a lot of what we do. So we're known for swinging, kettlebells, maces, clubs, the use of sandbags, battle ropes. And then the big thing is we're an inclusive and integrative philosophy. So everything that works, we want to be part of the whole of ONNIT. And having CJ there definitely is a big part of that because people need to get strong in the conventional sense as well. So I'll let him kind of intro himself and maybe share a little bit of what his philosophy is on that.
Yeah, so I'm CJ McFarland. As John Wolf said, I'm the head strength coach here at ONNIT Academy. I work primarily with athletes, so developing sports performance for adolescents all the way to the professional level, as well as some general population as well. Still work alongside the ONNIT principles. Just like you said, I explore more into the barbell realm, things like that, conventional methods, but really highly influenced on the durability aspects as well. So making sure that while they're taking those heavy loads, that they are staying safe and they're able to perform for a long period of time.
Yes, so then let's take a step back. One thing that whenever I've talked with any of the people involved in your company, the first thing that they talk about is, we're not an equipment company, we're not a supplement company, we are a human optimization company. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about what that is and why that's important.
Yeah, definitely. Our founder and CEO, Aubrey Marcus, he's a philosophy major out of University of Richmond originally, I believe. So,
yep.
His approach is rather esoteric. He's been known to explore very unconventional means for personal development. And what I mean by that, he's known for sharing a lot of information around plant medicine or even psychedelic use for the development of spirituality. And so, and a big proponent of that side of things, but also that's just tapping into kind of this understanding that the framework of convention doesn't necessarily apply. We're looking at spirituality, personal development, you know, things like meditation and sleep optimization, obviously nutrition, because we started as a supplement company, but movement is a big part of the equation as well. So we're trying to look at this from a bird's eye view, human development from a bird's eye view. What is encompassed in total human optimization? And what we find is that definition is very broad. So we find ourselves involved in things like float tanks, so sensory deprivation tanks, or cryotherapy. We're always integrating new information, and that's kind of the responsibility we take on as a total human optimization company. We're looking at trying to be on the cutting edge of what it takes to optimize human performance in every facet of life.
And it's looking at it as a strength coach. This is different, like the whole grand scheme of things, and we all talk about it, right? How it's like, oh, we want to build well-rounded athletes and this, that, and the other thing. But for the most part, it's a lot of guys that are probably a little shorter than they should be to play the sport, a little bit bigger than they should be to play the sport, and just, clanging and banging big weights. So how does this fit in, this whole idea of optimization, is someone looking at it from the strength coach's perspective?
And well, it's really important. Like you said, everybody talks about it, but we really do it here at ONNIT. So recovery is like a huge part of our athletes. As you may well know, like as soon as they finish the weight room, they have to already start into the recovery process. So we'll do that. We'll get them back to the sympathetic or parasympathetic state, have them relax, go into some cryotherapy if they need it. We have massage therapists on hand. So, we try to give them the best scenario possible to advance in their sport, perform to the best of their ability, as well as perform, like I said, at a long period of time. So injury shouldn't be the reason why they have to end their career. They should just do that on their own.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the reality is, as far as our education at the Academy, we look at ourselves as a longevity and performance system. So in prioritizing those things in that order, as far as most of the unconventional methodologies we teach, we're really looking at simplifying the approach to optimizing movement, right? And so what's really fun is if the overarching principles are prioritizing longevity, and you heard CJ bring up the term durability, which is kind of an in-house term that encompasses a whole diverse set of tools that we use, again, to bring athletes or general population from that state of training, that very sympathetic state, back down to a parasympathetic state, so they can get back to life and not be overly charged up or overly stressed out all the time. And so we do that with a variety of different methodologies: open chain joint mobility, ground-based movement. We're using ground reactive forces to kind of educate the nervous system about, hey, I'm not really stable. You see a lot of this with technology, methods like DNS or even, functional movement systems, inspired training systems a lot of times. And then we're always looking at, when we're incorporating a lot of these tools, that I think a lot of people, they like to explore their use because they're novel, for one, and then two, it's kind of sexy. The brand is sexy, and especially because of that, because of the celebrity attachment we have to the brand, a lot of people that individuals might look up to have attached value to the brand, so they're willing and able to explore, well, what does a mace do, and it's engaging and fun. But behind that, we put an education system that's really, we feel, is very sound and allows these people to explore these novel tools and novel methods with the underpinnings of again, a longevity and performance-based system. So we simplify things. When we have these sub-maximal loads, we're really looking for rotary control, rotary stability. We want to be able to see that these athletes or these individuals can control rotation. And we find that that's a new and novel way to define strength outside of just measuring how much weight can be lifted, right? Can you own your position? And we say a mace is an offset load. Is constantly pulling you in one direction or the other. Well, how well can you ground out these forces and not give into this rotary input? And anytime someone's on the field of play, there a lot of the things that they have to interact with are inputs that are asymmetrical. So can they control their body against these rotational loads and correct and make good decisions, good solutions to these problems in real time? And that's something that I think it's hard to quantify the value of, because a lot of the measurements are subjective. It's the coach's eye, and the athlete's sense of awareness with these tools and moving through space, accelerating, decelerating loads. But what we found is we're continually seeing people reap the benefits of that, and in balance with stuff that CJ brings to the table with strength, conventional strength training, and being able to load the body to develop strength in the traditional sense. That 1-2 punch is becoming very evidently very powerful.
Oh, 100%. And just looking at it as a motor learning standpoint, just putting them in situations where they need to solve general problems before you put them in specific, it's been talked about forever. Mm-hmm. So, that's just a great thing. Now, CJ, piggybacking on that, because obviously everything that we're doing over here is education-based. Now, and I have good friends and colleagues in the field who've been really involved taking these classes. One of which, Mark Megna, out of Miami. He actually was a football player here. I trained with him a few times. It was an interesting experience. Mark can get after it a bit. But when you were, as a strength coach, if you're looking at this, what could you tell to the coaches out there that would separate what you guys do education-wise, and why more people should be involved in it? Because I think that there's a lot of things that you guys do that are very unique that coaches should be more involved in.
Yeah, a big part of training is like chaotic movements, which a lot of people do. They implement bands or things like that, but that's where some of the steel mace or the steel club, things like that, come in play, because that does teach you how to create stability through the entire body. Right? So now you can do it with load instead of doing like a chaotic band push-up. Now you can add and progress through a 10-pound mace, 20-pound mace, and so forth, which I think is really important, as everything should be tracked, so you can add through that in a progression sense.
No, that's awesome. And then, so there's a wide variety of stuff, too, that you guys do with education. So let's maybe start expanding on that so people can have a better understanding of, what they could be learning and why they should.
Yeah, so, we've been pretty extensive in the development of new courses. So I can kind of go through the handful that we have right now, and hopefully I can shed some light on the fact that it's not purely about, it's this tool, right? But each tool, whether it be a hammer or a wrench, whatever the tool is, it has a certain value proposition, right? There's certain scenarios that it's going to really highlight the value of having that tool. And that's no different when it comes to exercise equipment, right? So our foundational body of work, literally our foundations course, is something that looks to simplify what seems very complex from the outside looking in. So if we look at I really like a lot of what Dan John does to simplify the framework of looking at exercise. And so you're looking at squat, hinge, push, pull. Of course, he has the loaded carry component as well, which I usually just look at challenging a neutral posture, right, under load and moving with gait. So if we're looking at just the first four, squat, hinge, push, pull, and we look at defining different variations of those mechanics, those movement patterns, and the why there'll be variations. And we do that through exploring the use of several of those unconventional tools. So starting with body weight, going to suspension training for more of assistance, then getting into something a little more dynamic, a sandbag, which is very safe and approachable compared to a piece of metal that bangs into your body potentially. So from the sandbag going to a battle rope, and the battle rope highlighting the fact that most people look at battle ropes as a very singularly focused tool, just a purely conditioning focused tool, but we show how you can use it in a variety of different ways to reinforce or challenge these patterns. From the battle rope into the kettlebell. Kettlebell, we're starting to look at displaced load, right? But it's still very strength oriented. And then moving from the kettlebell into the club, which is a further displaced load, and then the mace. And so when we're going through those foundations, essentially we're basically saying like, well, hey, look at when the tool changes. Sometimes the positions that are optimal for your body to be in changes because the levers change, because the position, that the proximity to the ground in terms of the handholds might change, and therefore you have to change your mechanics. And so we start looking at, well, there's no perfect squat. There's the right squat given the circumstances. So we have to contextualize movement. And that's kind of the lesson of foundations, is to be a thinking coach on the fly. You're problem-solving movement on the fly. From there, durability, which CJ was talking about, is the other foundational body of work, and that's this whole body of work that is more about recovery. So joint circles and ground-based movement and sequenced ground-based movement that might have some inspiration in a variety of restorative training methodologies like functional movement systems and even yoga, right? But done in a way where a lot of what the recurring theme in there is the fascial health. Yeah, so fascial and joint health. So really, and down regulation of the nervous system. And so that's 2 days of just exploring that as the opposite side of the coin for the foundations, which is very work focused. Then we have all the individual specializations. So where we look at the steel mace itself being an offset load with a long lever handle, you can hold it with two hands, and essentially that closes the chain of the upper body. But with that offset load, it really informs the body of, especially a certain level of scapular engagement, understands how to push and pull. You know, that push-pull arrangement that a lot of us maybe knew better than the current generation what old school physical labor was like. Shoveling yards of dirt or gravel, and not very many tools kind of tap into that. So the mace, it really does a great job of that. And all of our courses have a recurring theme. So say the foundations is the power of principles. Durability is resilience in recovery. The mace is revel in rotation, because what we're saying is each tool has the ability to highlight something new for our body. The club itself is a tool that allows for more rotary movement and exploration of multiplanar movement skills. And by swinging them, you're constantly moving this tool through an arc across your midline and potentially changing from in front to behind your body. And these arcs, these larger arcs, that are very proprioceptively stimulating, because you're extending the lever of your body, you're extending the space you own, essentially. And as we swing, we find that there's a upregulation of nervous system energy. So the terminology we use for that, the hashtag, is the vortex of vitality. Right, so you're swinging, you're creating these arcs of motion, and kind of charging up your battery, kind of like a generator, right? So we have these themes, and in terms of that vortex of vitality, using that energy as a way to load and unload the body in large segments. So more like these large fascial lines being loaded and unloaded, using stored elastic energy as a source for generating movement or generating the ability to do work. So, and then we have more courses, but obviously I don't want to keep on going into each one, but each one has a unique value proposition, much like that.
No, I think that what's really important is something that we've talked about on this show a couple times is that when people take thoughts or methods or tools or whatever it may be, and they take it and you go and it's like, oh, well, this is how they say they use it, but we're going to put our own little twist on it. Sometimes that's really not what you should do. Like, you really need to learn, this is how it's supposed to be used. This is how you use it. This is what it's good for. It's not a hammer. It's a screwdriver.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not going to put a nail in the fence. You're going to have to drill it in. So I think that courses like that, where so many people get so excited to buy new toys and they're like, oh, I'm just going to go and go and go. Like, that's how people get messed up. So then now looking at it from the coaching end, where do you see all these things fitting in, CJ? Like, how do you, as a guy who's going to be similar, more so, to the people who, are typically stuck in college basements, having these kids, just throwing weights around. Where do you see these and how these implements and these methods can fit in with the college coaching people that we would talk to regularly?
So there's probably like two main ways that I see this really implemented. The first way that we use them often is going to be on a restorative day. So for example, if somebody's training with us 4 times a week, we'll do a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday split, and then allow them the option to come in on Wednesday and do more of some ground-based flows or working with the steel club, steel mace, things like that, things that aren't going to tax the nervous system, but are still going to allow some blood flow back into the body and get them ready for essentially the Thursday that they're going to come in and do some strength training stuff. Then another way that I like to use it is accessory movements. So you don't always have to use, dumbbells or anything like that. You can always implement, you can do some reverse lunges with a steel mace and have some offset load in there as well. So you're working stability as well. I think those are like the two main important ways to implement them.
Yeah, and the other thing you might be able to see a lot of value in, and this is something we see with a lot of the coaches that come in, transitional movement skills. So a lot of the rotary movements have a component that has a direct carryover into specific applications, sport-specific or position-specific applications. And so when we're looking at somebody who has a hard time turning over their hip, doing a whole bunch of bilateral movement isn't going to help with that necessarily. And so we can look at that in an unloaded fashion, but also in a loaded fashion, which has high carryover, especially when again, we're looking at accelerating and decelerating load, right? And so a lot of times, conventional tools are not ideal for that. You're crossing the front of your body. You're not going to move a barbell laterally across the front of your body a lot of times, but you have a club with this slim profile, and you're able to move across the front of your body in a lateral swinging motion or something like that. Depending upon what type of sport your athlete's playing, say we just look at baseball or golf, and someone's you're swinging this weight or this implement in one direction all the time. So there's definitely the propensity for overtraining is a big issue, right? And so being able to strengthen essentially the brakes using the opposite direction, going through the opposite direction of training and generating force in the opposite direction, it has the opportunity to develop some level of symmetry in something in an athlete that's purely asymmetrical, right? So a lot of times what we'll find is that there's a lot of value in that. Or even if somebody has a hitch in the movement, being able to break up those movements, those big gross motor movements, into micro movements, and looking at it from a motor learning standpoint, kind of a component learning theory, right? So we're looking at, we'll just look at this one component. And again, we do that in an unloaded fashion or with these tools as well. And I think that that's always a great way to go. Whatever we're doing, we're always looking at developing movement skills through a 3-step progression. It's a static, fluid, dynamic environment. So whereas from the outside looking in, you might see someone or even Mark using a club or a mace, and the assumption might be like, oh, someone's just going to grab it and start swinging it. The reality of the situation is we're always looking at developing movement skills in that 3-step process. So do you own the position? Well, before you start moving, I want you to explore the end range positions that we're going to be moving into and out of, and then how well can we move slowly between those 2 points before we start generating a lot of power. I want to make sure we're not shooting a cannon from a canoe. And then once we kind of go through that process, we are able to gradually ramp up the amount of power that's poured into the movement. So that's a big part of what we're always doing, and it's not always so evident from the outside looking in. But I take definitely a big there's a lot of responsibility in introducing new tools into the environment of training and making sure that those principles are sound in which that they're presented, so that, again, like you said, there's a lot of training systems out there that are chaotic, not only in the methods, but seemingly in the approach that they're being taught. And we certainly do not want to fit into that category.
No, because that's when bad things can happen. And so going with that, with new tools and new toys and new directions and this and that, what's on the horizon? So where is this going now?
It's been an interesting journey. A lot of what we're now looking at doing it's really about strategic partnerships more than anything else. The door opens for us. We're not in the position where we want to go out and go head to head with a lot of people. We're really looking at developing high value propositions for people that would like to partner. And so we're constantly in talks with other organizations that are well known for education. Equinox has been a referral partner for us in most recent past. We've really enjoyed working with their coaches. They take a pretty serious approach to educating their trainers as far as what you see as a standard in the global gym kind of environment. Working with a variety of different coaches at different college programs. So Frank Wintrick over at he was at BYU. Now he's over in Virginia too, right?
Yeah.
And so he's in UVA, and we have a great relationship with him, going out and discussing, again, like you said, well, how does this stuff apply in the context of a strength and conditioning program? But continue to expand on those discussions. Recently, this last weekend, I was at Exo San Diego. We taught a seminar out there. So constantly just looking at, well, who are the people that we want to partner with, and really putting the information in their hands and seeing from their perspective how they would implement it in the context that you're speaking in a strength and conditioning program. I'm not experienced in doing what you do. So it'd be pretty presumptuous for me to say, like, this is the way that you're going to get the best out of it. I have some theories and we can discuss that, but I would present all of that information to you and have you poke as many holes in it before we ever kind of move the ball forward and past that theoretical discussion. And I look forward to those types of discussions because you don't know what you don't know. And more than anything else, I recognize the best thing I can do is, whether if I'm working with special operations units or a strength coach, to go in and know that, hey, I might be a subject matter expert on something, but it doesn't necessarily position me as the ultimate resource. The people on the ground always are going to know a lot more about their programs and their athletes than I could. I just kind of have a set of ideas and tools that might be beneficial, complementary to what they do.
And what do you think, CJ? Which way in the coaching realm do you see these things pushing forward?
Man, I think it's just really important for everyone to kind of buy into that system, as it'll help their athletes perform a little bit better, but it'll also help them, like I said, last longer. So we have a lot of guys that come to us, 8th, 9th year in the NFL, where they're already coming to the end of their career. They would do a summer with us, and they're like, man, I really wish I had this my rookie year and things like that. So I think it's really important for especially college coaches to keep using our methods or implementing it somehow to allow their players to last longer through college and then the NFL as well, or whatever sport that they're doing.
Yeah, no, and I think that that's really an awesome spot to kind of leave it, is that it's the end of the day, we need to make sure that we're taking care of the people that are taking care of us, and that we're there with these kids and building them the right way, and not just, destroying them so at the time that they're, mid-30s, that they all need hip and knee replacements and that they can't do anything that, when it comes to real life. And guys, we're going to make sure that we post a link to all of those courses down here below, because again, I think that this is really vital stuff for coaches to make sure that, at least take a look at, because it's something that's going to help with the preparation and then the durability of the athletes, whether you're working with high school kids, private sector, collegiate student athletes, pros, whatever it may be, just making sure that we're out there looking after them and taking care of them. Guys, can't thank you enough for the time. This is absolutely fantastic.
Thank you for having us on, Coach. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, definitely. We will be in touch really soon. We'll definitely see, if not you guys, definitely some people from ONNIT down here in July. Well, for you guys up here in July. Northerners still thinking Virginia's in the South. But yeah, it's really exciting, and we're really stoked to have you guys on board. And as I always tell Sally, tell Joe Rogan I said what's up.
Will do.
Awesome. Appreciate it, fellas. Have a great day.
See you,
Have a
Coach.
good one.
Thanks. And a huge thank you to John and CJ for spending the time with us today, guys. I can't thank these men enough for spending the time with us and talking today and sharing how the company's been growing and the things that they offer for us as coaches to help our athletes get better. I know a lot of people who have been able to take these classes. I have not yet. I look forward to in the very near future. If this is something that interests you guys, link below, take you right to their page that's got all the courses on it. Check them out. I mean, I think that one thing that's really important is that we make sure that whatever tools we're using them right, and we're teaching them right, and we're getting better at how we implement those means of exercise to our athletes. So yeah, gentlemen, thank you very much. Really appreciate the candid open sharing, and really excited to see the future with the company. And as always, guys, if you have any thoughts, comments, questions, please post them below. If you enjoyed the talk, also please share it through the social media outlet of your choice. If you haven't liked us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, please follow away. And if you're not subscribed to Podomatic, iTunes, or YouTube, please, guys, go ahead, hit that button so you can stay up to date with everything. And if you enjoyed the talk, hit a like and maybe hit a share. We greatly appreciate it. And as always, guys, we thank you for everything you do for us here at Central Virginia Sport Performance. We will be back next week with another awesome guest. We will see you then.